As of right now, they are still, I have not seen, I know they've met a couple times. I have not met with Mr. Burrows in regard to what conversations they've had at this point, so I'm not sure exactly where we are in that process. I know that they've met several times, but I have not had a meeting where they've done a proposal with me yet, so I think they're still investigating and researching some of that. They have all the information they need from John Mark, who's our building service person, and they have all the information they need in regard to the requirements. So I think it's now kind of developing what the vision of that area is going to look like. And what we've talked about in our initial meetings was how we're going to phase it in. Because I think what we need to look at is building it in pieces, so we have a full vision in mind rather than kind of piecemealing it. So we know that we're, in this time frame we're going to do this with this amount of money, and then we can slowly add it in. So there's actually a vision for the area, so it's not a potpourri of ideas. So at this point, I have not sat down with them again since that time. That's a good question.
How does that save?
$4 million?
Yeah.
I asked the same question. What we've been told is it's aligning our bus routes more. So you don't have to use as many buses, and you won't have as many drivers. And by doing that across the entire school system and aligning our times better, it has reduced buses on the road and drivers, and that's going to save $4 million.
It was my understanding that, like the buses that take care of the children at Washam, then go to Cornelius and then Davidson.
Some of them do. We do have a couple buses that come out of Hopewell. I think we have 2 buses that come out of the Hopewell zone. But the majority of them do. They follow up the line. They'll go to Cornelius. Some of them will go to Bailey. But I do think we have like 2 buses that come out of Hopewell.
And they very well may not get cost savings from our school. It's also looking at other schools around the county that there was a bunch of odd times all around them. So, and he would have probably done this whether, he's told us that he would have done this whether the budget was going to happen or not because of the savings, and it just made sense. Now, another thing that ties into there, which I thought you were going to ask, was what are we going to do with the 45 minutes? The interesting part about that is it looks like right now we are going to have some flexibility about how we use that time, which is really exciting. I'm a little surprised that that was going to be an option to us, but we will sit down as a staff and decide how to use that 45 minutes. It obviously won't be 45 more minutes of physical activity time, but it will be something we can look at as a school. Are we going to focus on creating another block of science, so we have science and social studies every day? Are we going to create a re-looping block where we can group our kids and work on specific needs? We haven't really talked about it as a school yet, but that is exciting that we're going to be able to do what we feel we need at our school.
Will it enable like the classrooms maybe get to go to the media center every week as opposed to?
Well, I don't know if it'll that's a question teachers ask too. I don't know if it'll completely solve our special area issue, but it will create another block of specials. So from that aspect, it will add another 45-minute block of specials to our day. But it's not going to completely solve our problem because our size is still so big. You look at kindergarten right now with 8 teachers. We only have 5 full-time special area teachers right now. And then we have the 3 half-time art, art, PE, and music. So it could help, but it's not going to completely solve. We may have to look at a bunch of different things. It could even be things as reducing the time of our specials to 30-minute blocks, or we're going to have to really think out of the box a little bit in regard to how to attack that, especially when you have grade levels at 8 or 9. It works in 5th grade because there's only 5 of them, but obviously they're going to get bigger next year. 4th grade's at 7. It's inevitable they're going to gain at least 1 class. So it's going to slowly become an issue over the 4 years that I've been here. It's just slowly worked its way up, the problem. So it'll help, not solve. Good question now.
I just kind of found defensive that I couldn't come in as a parent who helps out at the school and couldn't come in and have a little fun and do a fun little craft for Valentine's. I just remember doing those things when I was a kid. And
well, I will say this. That's a good question. We do more parties than most schools. I'll say that. Most schools don't have Valentine's events. We do the holiday. I think we do an end-of-year party. Yeah, I guess. This is our shorter one. We have an hour for the Christmas one or the holiday one. I mean, I guess it's possible we could look at it. It would give us some flexibility in regard to some of those times.
Like taking a poll of the teachers on what they would want, because they're the ones that are actually in the classroom.
Oh, they'll definitely have a feedback on it. You know, will it on a regular basis be for that? Maybe not. You're fine, Bryce. You go ahead. Maybe not on a regular basis. You know, there's some teachers that have talked about doing the morning meeting piece, and they wanted that extra time to do something like that, because I know 5th grade does that a lot. You know, I guess it could be on the table. I know that what Dr. Gorman is going to expect is the majority of its instructional time. I mean, I just think that'll be the reality of what we expect. But, I mean, it will give us some flexibility. Now, I think you're absolutely right from a teacher's perspective in regard. If you ask a teacher, would they want to take kids outside versus planning, I would think 9 out of 10 are going to tell you I would rather plan. You know, and that becomes more of an organizational thing, like who am I going to get to do that? And you know, it's kind of a trade-off. You have these assistants in the school, and what I've told my assistants is I want about 75 to 80% of your time working with kids. You know, you can do some clerical, but 80% of the time I want you working in small groups working with kids. You could shift the entire process and say, you know what, instead of teachers going outside, the assistants are going to do that. That will basically take the majority of their day, and they could do that. And having parents do it, I don't know, that's a kind of a sticky wicket with me, because it's really hard for one parent to kind of discipline another parent or another child. You know, are they going to monitor properly? I think that's going to be good support to help. I don't know if it could be solely that way. And
These were actually
paid?
parents who were paid
Yeah.
through the district.
Yeah, see that, and I don't see that happening.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I know in Union, well, California is a union state. When I was a student teacher in Western Pennsylvania, lunch duty, for instance, there was hired folks that came in and did lunch duty, and then you got to go and do whatever you did. And I think that's really a design of the state. So I don't know how certain schools are doing it, but it's going to give us some flexibility. So you may see more of that. Yeah, that's a good question though. But I want the instruction to be fun then too.
Right.
I mean, I've seen a lot of, based on what I've heard from a lot of the classroom teachers, I mean, they see it as another way to try to get more of the content in, more science and social studies, be able to do more experiments or projects or things like that, where because of the limited time and because of the focus on math and reading and writing and everything, they haven't got as much involved into it. And so now that's one of the things I've just kind of heard from people is they want to be able to use some of that time at least and try to get a little more creative, a little more authentic as far as the content area goes, as far as social studies and science goes.
Anything else? That's a good question. You know, ultimately, what I tell the teachers is, you know, it's ultimately going to be my decision at the end of the line. But we do want their feedback as part of the process. You know, they have to, and you need to know. You know, there's some teachers that, you know, like Scott said, there's some teachers that are thrilled that they have 45 extra minutes. There's some teachers that are 45 minutes isn't enough. You know, I had a first grade teacher tell me yesterday that I can do 45 minutes. I can spend that. You know, I can think of 1,000 things to do for that without even thinking about it. You know, Miss Nichols is the one. Mm-hmm. And there's some teachers that still haven't got beyond the obstacle of you just added 45 minutes to my day, and I'm not getting paid for it. Right. So everybody's kind of at different places on the scale. But so we're gonna allow the, we are gonna allow some discussion on it. So that was a promising thing. I honestly believed to get a piece of or to get an email that said this is what you're gonna use it for. So that was good that they're gonna allow us some flexibility to kind of meet the needs of our school. So. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I was just thinking with the younger ones that it might just give the teachers and students a chance to feel a little less,
right.
Just to breathe a little more. And then the older ones, absolutely, I love the content, but maybe, just to chill a little bit in their flow, to not be quite so rushed. Yeah. And that's a great gift right there.
Because it is breakneck. I mean,
it is.
I have to, just if you look at the cafeteria schedule alone, every 2 minutes. I got to get people in here every 2 minutes if you look at the schedule. And, if somebody's 2 minutes late, the chaos that ensues. I mean, if a table's not up at a certain time. So it definitely, we have every second accounted for. And that's just kind of a creature of we have to do these certain things in this block of time. And I don't know if 45 minutes is enough either. Now, the big concern I've gotten from parents, the compliment has been, we get to get 15 minutes later to school. Everybody likes that, which is fine. The negative has really been with the kindergarten parents. A few parents have been like, I don't know if my kindergartner can stay 45 more minutes. And I think early on, that is absolutely a concern because kindergartners walk out of here like zombies early in the year. They're falling asleep in in the car line, they're laying down. You look over, they're asleep. But later on, they start to build a stamina. But that's really the feedback I've gotten. And I wouldn't say negative, but the concern.
Can you give me your, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to, your opinion on student grading and students grading other student papers?
I think it's fantastic. Student assessment is part of what we are teaching teachers to do, because students need to understand what expectations are. Now, it shouldn't be the only grade. It should be part of the grading process. It's even in the state rubric now for teachers, where if you look at the rubric for a teacher in the state of North Carolina, one of the boxes that it has listed is, are you including students in the assessment process, assessing student work, peer assessment? Because what it does is it allows students to envision, okay, here's a rubric of what the expectation is. I'm looking at this. Does it have all those pieces in there? Now, it shouldn't be the only thing, but it should be part of the process, yes.
So there is a teacher and or a staff member looking at these papers and giving that grade also?
Right. I know the class you're talking about. They did their own, and Ms. Mize-Wilson looked at it.
Okay.
Yeah. And you would be amazed. You would think in
Oh,
theory.
they were so
You would
critical.
say they're
right.
hard. They're hard.
I had a child in 4th
They're
grade
harder
give
than
himself
teachers.
an F. He gave himself an F because he saw that he didn't do a part.
Wow.
And so that creates that.
Responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, if you see it, it's like, I mean, so you would think, yeah, you know, if you're a middle schooler or something, you know, hey, I got an A, right? But they were actually very analytical. Now, I don't know if you could do it with everybody off the bat like that, but there's certain groups of kids I think you can, because that's the way they think.
Right.
So I think from that perspective it was good, because it really showed the kids that, you know, if I did what it said here and incorporated these things, you know, I'm here. If I didn't do this, you know, there was 3 parts of this puzzle, I didn't do one of the parts of the puzzle, that means, you know, I've dropped down here automatically. So that was kind of interesting. Now, I didn't see all the grades to see how the flow of the grades were, but I did see a couple of the kids that dropped, you know, scored themselves really low. I thought that was intriguing, because you don't necessarily expect that. So it should be both.